Let's have a conversation about how I made my first $1 million. There are a few key things that needed to happen. So I went from 0 to $1 million in just 2 years. And one of the shifts was, instead of thinking of myself as a professional or an influencer, I started thinking of myself as a brand, and it changed the way I moved. So I'm going to get in the specifics of what that means. I also had an offer that I positioned in a very specific way, and I had an audience that I was speaking to in a very specific way. So we're gonna get into that too. And then as far as how I operated, I went from being a DIYer to a hirer. So you know DIY is do-it-yourself. I was a DIYer until I DIE'd, because I am a first generation eldest daughter. My mom is from Panama, my dad is from Jamaica, and I was taught that the way you get something done is you do it yourself and you're gonna work hard. And so I really had to untrain myself from being a DIYer to becoming a hirer and hiring help and support. In this video, I'm not just talking about building $1 million business, I'm talking about something that's way more valuable. And that is also building a $1 million brand. When you set out to not just, I made $1 million, but I am building the infrastructure for a $1 million, multi-million dollar brand, that is so much more powerful. And what I mean by that is, not only do you have millions in cash that's hitting the bank account and the Stripe account, but you can also look on the balance sheet. And this brand consists of assets that are valued beyond $1 million. So I got to $1 million in just 2 years. And it is because I remembered that building $1 million brand is about scale. So scale is about how can we do less things better. It's about removing all the extra things that we become distracted by. We are a master of our craft. We are focused and grounded. We are heading in one direction, okay? The power of our strike is that much more powerful because it's all going in the same direction, and therefore we have velocity and acceleration and we can go faster. So the way I did this is that I had one funnel and one marketing activity that I repeated, right? So I would do a weekly webinar. I would run ads every single day. It was like, it's a rolling, not a stopwatch. It don't ever stop, right? My ads were running all around the clock, getting me leads around the clock. Then I would do my weekly webinar. And for you, it may not be ads, it may not be a webinar, but I want you to identify what is that one marketing activity that you as your $1 million self is going to repeat. And the trick is you're gonna track it. So right now I'm starting my YouTube journey. I have my spreadsheet where I am tracking my videos, what titles are getting the best click-through rates, what videos are getting the longest watch time, what thumbnails, how am I pairing the copy and the thumbnails with the title of the videos. I'm taking all this in. Which of my videos had the highest CPM and are gonna get me the best payouts for less views? I am taking inventory of all of that. I'm tracking it every single day. Which videos are leading to sales? What days am I getting VIP session sales, my different store sales of my course from scratch, my webinar from scratch? When are those coming in? I'm tracking all of that. So make sure that you are tracking what's important with your marketing, and that way you can double down on it and improve on it over time. By the time I got to the brand level, I knew how to transition from being a DIYer to a hirer. I knew what to hire for because I put in the work at those previous levels to maximize my strengths and my skills, right? What I want you to do is take inventory of what your strengths and skills and background knowledge are. And don't shame yourself for anything that you don't happen to have. My first job out of college, I was helping advertisers manage their Facebook ads. So I learned copywriting, I learned how to measure ads. From a high level, I learned how to run them. So by the time it was time for me to run ads in my own business, I just ran them myself. I was writing the copy, I was up in Facebook Ads Manager, making the tweaks. And so what I did is I maximized my strengths and my abilities. When I hit a ceiling and I said, I just had my first $100,000 month, but I know I want to scale to $1 million. I'm afraid I'm going to lose this. I don't want to go from 130K this month and drop back down to 50. I need to bring in reinforcements. And also, I want someone who has already managed ad accounts that have gone way past $1 million, because we're visionaries, right? We're thinking about the future, that brand elasticity that's gonna stand the test of time, different price points, different seasons. So what I did, and this is what I often do, I found a Facebook ads manager. I did not hire them right away to be on my team. I paid them $200 for an hour of their time. In that hour, I opened up my Facebook ads editor and I had them walk through it. And I said, can you please tell me what changes you would make in my current account so that I can scale to $1 million in the next 12 months? And then I upped the ante and I said, now that you've told me that, tell me what you would do differently if I wanted to cut that in half and I wanted to get to $1 million by May. If I wanted to get there in 5 months, what would you change from what we just said? And so he was able to give me that playbook. But guess what it was based on? All the work I did previously. Because I had been doing my marketing activities every day, every week, I had data. And he was able to see the trends. And so he said, if you just double your spend here and make sure that these metrics are the same, then you will get 5x the results. And hit these benchmarks, you will be able to get to $1 million by May. Side note, I didn't make $1 million by May that year, but I did make it by June. So instead of making it in a year, I did make it in 6 months. But it was because I sought out an advisor. And I just said, let me pay you for an hour of your time. You've already done it. And I've done that time and time again. I've hired a coach and paid her $15,000 for a 1-day in-person intensive because I was shifting identities. And I'm like, she's already done this. She's been on TV before. She's had a multi-7-figure business. She's had a big team, scaled down, leaned out her team, which by the way, those are things I've done and I'm working on the TV thing. But it's like, I just went to her and I said, what did you do? But more importantly, I learned from how she was thinking. I learned from her mindset. I learned from how she moved. I learned from how she structured her offer. So I started learning from her even before I got in the room with her. And then once I got in the room with her, it was like 10x the learnings. So I do this whenever I'm making that shift. And that's why I myself today, I am so excited that I'm feeling very spacious in this season. And I've reopened one-on-one VIP sessions. I know the power of getting in the room with someone, and I want to be that person for you if you're going through a transition. I'll include the information in the description box if you're interested in working with me one-on-one. So after I did that paid session with a Facebook ads person and they advised me, then I had a blueprint to hire a permanent Facebook ads manager. And now I could call BS if we were on an interview and I was interviewing candidates and they were giving me a plan that didn't map up to what I already kind of knew, right? So that's why you do the work in advance, so that when you are hiring people later, you are more educated about when you give them homework, right? And there's a whole hiring process I go through. For my chief of staff, there were 4 rounds that I went to, and she was exquisite. And I know it's because my hiring process was so rigorous. So when you are hiring, you're gonna give them a homework assignment, and or when you're live with them, you're gonna ask them a very practical question, such as, that's based on your future, the expansion of your brand. Right now I'm at $100,000 per year. I wanna get to $1 million per year in the next 18 months. In your role, what would you do to help me get there? Give me the 18-month roadmap, break it down month by month. And you can ask them that on the call and see how they think. See, not necessarily that they get the right answer, but what is the thinking they put into getting there. So to make this clear, I didn't have any full-time contractors or hires that were long-term before I crossed $1 million. So I got to that $1 million on my own. And instead of investing in team, I invested in mentorship. So this is when I would hire those coaches. I would join a mastermind. I would pay an expert for an hour of their time. That's what I did. And then after I crossed $1 million, that's when I started making long-term hires. So I was bogged down by customer support emails. So I hired a customer support person. I wanted to be more expansive and free myself up from the coaching inside the community. So I hired a coach, and she knew online courses and digital products, personal branding in and out. And she was one of my students. So that's a great place to look, by the way, if you're looking to hire someone inside of your company, inside of your team, previous customers, people on your email list, people who are following you because they know your brand in and out. And then a couple months after I hired them, I hired the Facebook ads manager. So that was my initial team that helped me bridge from after I made that first $1 million, now let's get to the next step. Now the next step for me was in the next year. So I made $1 million, and then over the next 12 months, I made $10 million. So I did not double or 2x, I 10x'd from one year to the next. I was able to generate 10 million because I doubled down on what was working. We went back to the data. I said, when we spend this much on ads, let's just 5x it. and we got more results. Then, because I had the brand elasticity, I said, well, we have success with this $22,000 offer. Let's introduce a $10K or $18K offer, right? I have honed the skill of webinars. Let me do a really big webinar. So I had 6,000 people on live and we sold the $18,000 offer. Let's do that. And that was $1 million day. We generated 1.3 million that day. So all of these things, right? At the time, I was also open to more collaborations. So I appeared in press. So this is when the article was written about me, the Millionaire Maker in Forbes. This is when I was a guest on Jenna Kutcher's Gold Digger podcast. I was a guest on Afrotech. They wrote up an article about me there, and then I was a guest on their podcast. I did some speaking. So I think during this season, I spoke at Afrotech as well. I was a virtual keynote for Circle, and I talked about the future of online courses. So for an hour, I got paid $10K to do that. I was on the Teachable Summit, which was another virtual thing. So this is when, because I had put in the work and my systems were working for me, I was freed up to be the brand, right? And to be the advocate for what we had created. And I also made sure that I collected testimonials. So we did 2 really big campaigns to the email list, to all of our customers. And we positioned it in a way where, hey, we're upgrading the course. We have refilmed the whole thing. And if you want early access to it, all you have to do is send us an honest review of your experience with Course from Scratch. And then you'll be entered to win a giveaway where I'm going to fly out 5 Course from Scratch students to Los Angeles. And actually, I said I was gonna fly out, I think 1, but I ended up flying out 5. And it was really dope. I rented a huge house in the West Hollywood Hills. And they came, my team was there, but I gifted it to them because I said, y'all did the work. You took the program, you implemented it, you made your 5 figures or 6 figures. One of them had made 7 figures in just 1 year. And I was able to bring them out and give back because my framework helped them get results, but also because we did a very targeted campaign. So if you haven't gathered testimonials, think about something that you can do to start gathering them. Because of that, we got over 1,000 written testimonials and 350 video testimonials. So I think there are very few people in the space who have over 300 video testimonials for their program, right? So you can be the next one. But all these things were building that foundation for $1 million business, but more importantly, multi-million-dollar brand, a brand that had the value of multiple millions. When you are growing to that $1 million and beyond, you also want to be very specific about who your customer is. These are your MVPs, your most valuable payers. When I say specific, here's what I mean. What I realized is I loved working with disruptors of industry. So in my early days, like day 1 of opening this business and starting this offer, I was really specific. And I said, I want to work with women who I see as inspiring to me. So they were women of color who were technologists, they were entrepreneurs, they were business owners, they were really good with technology, and they were futurists and forward thinking, growth mindset. They invested in themselves. They might have had a TEDx talk or a book that they'd already written, and they were thought leaders. And what I saw them was as disruptors of industry. They were one of the first to have original thinking in their industry. And so it led me back to that concept of the strength of a mustard seed. The first set of customers I had was so potent and so specific that as I scaled, the quality of my customers did not get diluted. I was still working with incredible people who now, a lot of them are in my group chat. I just met with one of them yesterday. I'm now her customer, Glow. Shout out to Glow. She's assisting me with my YouTube growth. She started as a Course from Scratch customer. She took my course and was able to make 6 figures for her offer, right? So when you're thinking about your customers, be potent. Think about even people you aspire to be in the room with who just happen to need your expertise. So they're a master over here, but not over here where you are, okay? So because of this, I got to work with amazing women like Tara Reid, who's one of my best friends. I'm actually gonna see her next week in Mexico City. But Tara Reid, she was a disruptor of industry. She developed a way to develop apps without code. Everybody was talking about, you need to be a developer, you need to learn to code. She said, no, you don't. And I'm a woman of color, I'm gonna show you how to do it. Then it was Anna Rakoczki. And she was someone who was in the health field. And she said, you're a woman over 50 and you have diabetes, you have high blood pressure, and they're telling you to get on medication. not on my watch. I'm a disruptor of industry. I'm gonna show you how you can cook healthy, whole meals and learn how to listen to your body. And that is going to reverse your symptoms. I promise you. And she's now done that for definitely tens of thousands of women over 50 at this point. Like, she's incredible. Another one, Terry Igioma. She said, I am a teacher and now I'm an assistant vice principal at a school and I trade stocks on the side, but I'm a single woman and I travel. I take my stocks earnings and I travel, and I show that you can be different. All teachers don't look and operate the same. All assistant principals don't look and operate the same. And I'm a woman of faith. And she said, I am going to use this now to free myself from my 9-to-5 job because I can make a bigger impact on the world if I can teach others like me how to free themselves by investing in the stock market. She was a disruptor of industry. So I want you to think about what your equivalent identity is for your MVPs, your most valuable payers, so that you have that brand elasticity. And as you grow, you have those same people take the next offer you have, and then the next offer. And then guess what? Eventually you might be their customer because they have something that you need. So when you think about a brand, there are very specific things, and that's what we're talking about in this video. By the time I reached this level, there were a few things that were true. The first is that I had brand elasticity. I had a core offer, a core framework that worked, a core audience that could get results from it. And so the brand elasticity means that you are resonant and relevant across time and across price points. So what that looks like is that you can have your signature offer. So I had my signature offer, which was a $2,000, $2,500 offer, course from scratch, right? And what I was able to do is then add higher offers. I had brand elasticity because I had spent so much time honing the core. So at the $1 million level, I was able to introduce a $18,000 offer. And it was for the same customer, but it was for that customer who had evolved. So instead of being at level 1 and me helping them make their first $10,000 and launch their offer, right, monetize their story, they graduated to the next level. And they said, okay, Danielle, we did course from scratch. What's next? We want to do what you've done, help us scale to 6 or 7 figures. And so that's when I introduced that $18,000 offer. But it was because I had spent the time building that solid foundation. And then from there, I introduced the CEO Circle, which was a mastermind. And that was a $65,000 year-long program. And again, it was for the same customer, but them evolved. After they graduated from Course Alchemy, that other high ticket offer, and they said, okay, now we want to learn how to automate all of this. We want to learn how to hire. We want to learn how to use the point of scale. That's when they got into the mastermind and they got to actually work with me and my team more closely. So what we do at the $1 million level is we are thinking of and respecting ourselves as a brand, and we have brand elasticity. We have a bigger vision for the future of what we're becoming. We are not beholden to the small box that we once occupied. So at that $1 million level, I want you to have this $1 million vision. And when you are thinking about your $1 million vision, you are thinking about your customers as well. And you're not having them beholden to the small box they entered your world, your ecosystem at. But instead, you're imagining the future for them. You're showing them the elasticity that they also have in their journey and how you have things that can help provide for them. The other thing about brand elasticity is that you are relevant over time. So my offers are still relevant because they are evergreen offers. They're not based on trendy, gimmicky things that are working in the moment. They are based on brass tacks principles and philosophies that stand the test of time. And that's why I can continue. I'm in year 10. I'm celebrating a decade of having my same business, my same offers, this brand that I've been expanding, and I am still relevant and resonant. It is about what are the beliefs that we need to help our customers unlearn, and how can we help them do that? What is the framework that we're providing that is not based on an app or a platform that might go away tomorrow, but it's based on core marketing principles. It's based on getting intimate with yourself and your customer and figuring out their internal questions that they're up at night asking God, not necessarily the questions they're Googling in the daytime. Anybody can answer those, but you're able to answer those heartfelt, silent questions. So all of these are things that stand the test of time. And when you're thinking about your $1 million and building this $1 million brand, I want you to think about those kind of philosophical evergreen elements that you are going to have in your curriculum and as a part of your brand. The next thing about building a brand and a business that's generating $1 million and that has a valuation or value in the market of multi-millions is brand integrity. So in my brand, I kept continuity and consistency. Everything was congruent. Whenever someone read an email from me, saw an offer from me, it had a similar vibe, a similar tone. It had storytelling, it had vulnerability, it had our core principles, which is you are a unique being. You are a one of one, and I'm gonna help you build an offer around your story. So I want you to think about how you can have continuity and congruence. What are those core principles and core messages that are going to give your brand integrity? And integrity means that it has potency. So it's like the mustard seed, right? You can take a fruit and you can take one seed out of it. And when you plant that seed, it will grow another whole fruit. That is potency. That seed is you, your essence, your message, that rock solid foundation that stands the test of time, that is unique to you. And when you give your message, whether it's over YouTube, it is through ads, it is through a masterclass, a webinar, TikTok, wherever. If someone engages with you for just 5 minutes, that's the seed they're getting. How potent is that seed? Did you leave a lasting impression? Did you step to them as you in your essence so that they don't confuse you with anybody else? But they're like, oh yeah, I know who that is. Oh, I hear that voice. I recognize that voice. Oh, I recognize that message. So I want you to think about how you can be potent, because when you are scaling past $1 million, you don't want something that is diluted. And when you make a copy of a copy, it's diluted. So if you find somebody else's blueprint and you just make a copy of it and you try to do the same thing, it's going to be diluted. And the more you try to stretch that across 100,000, 500,000, a million, 10 million, it's going to be so diluted you won't recognize it, you won't recognize yourself, and the audience will pick up on the fact that this is a copy of a copy. So I want you to think about your potency. We covered a lot. I really enjoyed this discussion. I hope it brought you joy as well. I think the biggest takeaway I want you to leave here with is it's not just about thinking about how can I make $1 million. I want you to reframe about how can I build the infrastructure for $1 million brand that is valued in the multi-millions, and build that brand elasticity, the brand integrity. Have the potency of a mustard seed in everything you do, your framework, your identity, the identity of the people you help. And that way your brand can stand the test of time. You can be there a decade later and still feel joyful in your business and joyful to your clients. You can still be a thought leader in your industry. You can still be a trailblazer, and you don't feel like, oh, this is old and tired. I don't know. No, you have that innovation because you're starting to think that way now. So I would love to hear your number one takeaway. What inspired you the most? What opened up your mind the most? What are things that you're going to take action on in the comments? And if there's any way I can support you in your journey and creating your $1 million brand, continuing to build, continuing to be on the brink, you know how to find me. Check the description box and you can book some one-on-one time with me. And if this video moved you and you know someone else in your life where you're like, we need to be accountability partners, we are both building our $1 million visions and $1 million brands, we're thinking bigger, then make sure you share this video with them so y'all could be in it on this next journey together. All right, I'll see you in the next video.